You're listening to Thrive, where every week we have meaningful conversations with incredible women like you, packed with practical tips and sisterly advice to bring you from a life of simply surviving to thriving. It's personal development for the everyday gal who is done with coasting through her days, done with feeling like she's missing out on the deeper meaning of her own life, and done with mediocrity once and for all. Because it's not enough to simply survive. You deserve to thrive. I'm your host, Erica Gwynn, and I'm ready to thrive together. Here's today's episode. You know that awful feeling of just not getting enough sleep? Or maybe even worse, the feeling of clocking in your 7 to 9 hours and still waking up feeling tired? Dr. Funke Afolabi-Brown is the founder of RestfulSleepMD, where she helps busy women and their kids prioritize sleep and sleep better to truly thrive. In today's episode, she shares the scoop on why sleep is actually so important and how it impacts, well, everything, as well as realistic ways to make it happen. Since I know you're rolling your eyes saying, I just don't have time, or I'll sleep when I'm dead. No more, sis. We also chat about sleep issues like struggling to fall asleep or stay asleep, and how to create a bedtime routine that sets you up for some solid Z's. Are you ready for your best night's sleep ever? Stay tuned through this episode. Drop it 5 stars if you like what you're listening to. And now, welcome, Dr. Funke.
Thanks for having me, Erica. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, Doc. Welcome to Thrive. I am so excited that you are here. We literally just found out we live maybe, 40 minutes away from each other. So truly a small world here. But I'm also especially excited about this episode because I know we all know the importance of a good night's sleep. And I also know we all know the feeling of not getting it. I feel like every phase or season of life comes with an opportunity to have not the best sleep habits, whether that's, as a college student pulling all-nighters, which don't do that, or you're a new mom and you're in newborn phase, which will be me soon, so yikes, or you're experiencing hormonal changes or other health things that just might have this really negative impact on your sleep, and you don't even know it. Man, oh man, I feel like everyone's come to the right place because you are here to seriously help everybody out.
I mean, the struggle is real, right? I love what you said about the fact that seasons happen, things happen that deprives us of sleep, but really it's getting back on track and making sure we prioritize it. I think that's the key.
For sure, for sure. Well, before we dive into the good stuff, tell us all about you and what you do and what you specialize in.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I am so thrilled to be here. I am a sleep medicine physician. My passion really and it's reflected in my business and what I do every day is really in helping busy mamas prioritize sleep. And I help their children sleep better because I know when the kids sleep better, guess who sleeps better? Hopefully. So I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm a mom of 2 myself, so I have gone through that phase of, having a newborn and toddlers and everything that comes with, being a mom and juggling everything, right? So I know how sleep can be on the back burner. And I think that was part of what really inspired me to create Restful Sleep MD to really help others.
I love that. And then I already have the questions rolling through my brain with my 4.5-year-old and all of the things that she has right now. And it's
Mm.
crazy. But first things first, this may be basic intel to the girlies listening in who are already professional sleepers, bless them. But can you give us the lowdown on why sleep is truly so important? What happens in our bodies while we're sleeping and kind of how many hours we truly need to thrive? Is it still the 7 to 9 or like
Mm.
what's the real scoop here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, with sleep, It affects, I say, every single system in our body. This is one thing that really impacts you from top to bottom. So even our brain health. So honestly, your brain goes through sort of like a janitorial experience when you go to sleep at night. There's systems in your brain that help with cleansing the your brain of just products and things that may have deposited over the course of the day. So when you sleep, you allow that system to kick in. And then you also have hormone secretion, like growth hormone and things like that, that occur during sleep. Sleep is also very important for like memory consolidation and us being able to learn and create new memories and also to learn new skills. Then we talk about our mood and our ability to perform the best that we can. It all revolves around sleep, and also our metabolism. So weight loss and sleep have been so tightly related that I tell people, like, if you are not sleeping well, even going to the gym like 7 days a week for several hours and eating that, being on that really strict diet, if you're not prioritizing sleep, it really doesn't, you don't go as far as you would if you slept well.
Something so cool that I know you know and also teach and coach on and all of that jazz is kind of like sleep mindset and how that connects to everything too, how different thoughts and behaviors and environmental factors all contribute also to how well we sleep. So can you speak to that as well? Because that's like so fascinating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the first piece of it is, first, we went through a phase, right, as women, whatever it is, professionals, entrepreneurs, where we felt like sleep was just a waste of time, and we felt like we were like superheroes, and so we almost had that mindset of, oh, I just need a little bit just to get me over the edge. The 7 to 9 hour hasn't changed; it's still what's needed, and so there's that mindset of, oh yes, I can perform on little sleep. But then you have to flip that and say, well, if I've been able to achieve so much with so little sleep, imagine how far I'll go if I optimize my sleep and got adequate sleep. So I think that piece is so key. And then also, I think another mindset, especially around women, is everybody else matters but us. I don't know where we get that from, right? So all of a sudden, when that friend calls us at 10 to 30 p.m. to give them, to give us a lowdown of everything they've been going through. We ditch sleep, we put everything else aside, and then we're losing that, right? So there's so many ways to look at this. And also, the third piece around mindset is those thoughts that seem to bombard us when we're about to sleep. You always wonder, like, why am I thinking about my experience in grade school as I am trying to, to settle down, or like some conversation you had like days ago, or something in the future, like what am I going to pack for my kids for, I don't know, something they're going to have in a month's time. Like, it's really incredible how that then also can affect us being able to settle down and actually get the sleep we need.
Okay, so why is that? Why does that happen? Because you're so spot on. It's like the second your head hits the pillow, it's the most random stream of consciousness. And I swear, sometimes my most brilliant thoughts will hit me
Yeah.
at like 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, when I awake and I'm like, oh, I need to write this down or I'm going to
Yeah.
forget. So, is there a reason for that? Is that like a scientific thing or is that just a terrible coincidence for all of us?
No, it's both. I think there's a psychological piece to it. I always say there are two places where my most brilliant ideas come in. It's when I'm in the shower, when I don't
Yep.
have access to either my phone or a pen, or as my head hits the pillow. With regards to the mind racing and all those thoughts coming in, usually that's built around the fact that we have not given ourselves time during the day to process, time during the day to be mindful, right? So we are running nonstop. We're catering to needs. We're putting out fires. We're solving world problems, but we don't get a break. We don't get to pause and just sit with our thoughts. We're too busy. And so when you get into bed, that's the first time your mind eventually has your attention and it's like, yep, now we're ready. Let's go, right? So I see a huge difference. And also when we don't have time between when our day ends And when it's time for bed, like having a bedtime routine where you really get to wind down, I see that mind racing become a huge, huge issue. Another thing that really triggers that is anxiety and stress. So if you are not really managing anxiety and managing stress well, you're going to bring all those emotions into bed with you. So again, so many levels and so many ways by which this can really affect us.
Okay, so I know you mentioned we're both moms, so we all relate to this really well. But what are your favorite ways then to prioritize sleep in a practical way? Because I'm sure that as soon as you said that right off the gate, there's women rolling their eyes going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, but I have X amount of kids or I have all of these other things." So what does that really mean to you and what does that really look like to you in a practical way that is actually achievable for all of us who have all of the things going on and all of the children and all of the to-dos and all of the everything?
So you really hit the nail on the head. It's so funny. Yesterday, I posted something on Instagram. I just want to read it because it resonates so well with what you just asked. And I said, okay, dear mom, when I'm asking you to prioritize sleep, here are a few things I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you not to neglect self-care. I'm telling you to say no if it's too much. I'm telling you to let go of what doesn't work. I'm telling you to ditch unrealistic expectations. I'm telling you to do more of what you want. I'm telling you not to be afraid of setting boundaries. And I'm telling you to be true to yourself. And the reason why I brought that up is, yeah, most times when you hear prioritize sleep, it's like, well, look at my life. Especially as a mom, like you have so many things going on. So I think it starts with that mindset where you say, you know what, when I'm at my most rested self is when I'm able to show up to be there as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as a, as a career woman, whatever that looks like. So you start from there, knowing that when you prioritize your sleep, you're doing the entire world a favor because guess what? They're going to benefit the most from you. So that's one. I think we have to come to that place in our mind. Practically, I will tell you for me what has worked and what I tell my clients. We set appointments for everything, right? Our kids basketball, we don't miss any game, right? Our their activities, we don't miss all of that. Their doctor's appointment, we do not miss it. Why? Because we have all kinds of reminders on our phones telling us get up, get in the car and get to wherever it is you're going. We have to do the same with our sleep right now because everything else is taking up space. And everything we do will fill up whatever void we give it. So when we make it in such a way where we say, you know what, sleep is, I'm supposed to be sleeping a third of my life, right? 7 to 9 hours. It sounds like a lot. It hasn't changed. And there's a reason why it hasn't changed because we need it, right? So once you start from that place of what do I need to do to make sure that I protect my sleep? And then you plan everything else around that. And then what that will look like is you become better at time management because now you're going to be able to focus on the things that really matter, not just the abundance of things that you feel like you have to do. So for me, I have to set that. I set two alarms to say, okay, it's time to wind down. Because when I say you need 7 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep, that doesn't mean you're gonna start getting ready 7 hour at that 7 hour mark. It means you're giving yourself like a 30-minute buffer to be able to wind down. So we have to set it like that. And then eventually it just becomes a part of you. But if we don't set that intentionality, it really doesn't happen. And then I also feel like as moms, we feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do it perfectly. And so I'm not going to try at all. Literally, if you're only sleeping 5 hours right now, I'll take 5.5. Let's do 5.5. And then build from there and just be kind to yourself.
Since you also mentioned bedtime routine, can you shed light on what yours looks like? Like, are you a fan of no phones in the bedroom, or like, are you a melatonin and sleepy time tea kind of gal? Or do you, I don't know, some people say you should stretch or like meditate or whatever before journal before bed. Is there a science that you found or a sort of formula that's kind of like optimal, or do you just have personal favorites that you like to recommend that you think work especially well?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really just have to find what fills you, right? So for some people, for me, I just say, what's a routine? Really, it's two or three. You don't want it to be convoluted. You don't want it to be complicated. Two or three relaxing and pleasant activities that lead you in the direction of the bedroom, right? So if you're some for me, I love to take a bath because, there's grime, there's sweat all day, and it does two functions for me. Cleans me, cleanses my body. And then, you could have a skincare routine with it. And then the other thing is our core body temperature actually drops as we go to sleep. So it actually promotes good sleep when you take a bath or a shower before bed. So I always have that. I recommend that a lot. And people that I work with say, yes, it kind of sets the night for you. And then now you get to choose and try different things. If you're someone who likes to read a book and do some journaling before bed, then do that. If you're someone who really enjoys like a little bit of yoga and meditation and just listening to some music before bed, try out a few things and then find the two or three that really work for you. I'll do a bath and then I do some journaling, and then I meditate. I just spend some time meditating, reflecting, and in doing that journaling, it doesn't have to be anything fantastic. Sometimes for me, it's a brain dump. If I feel like I've had a very busy day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want these thoughts to join me in bed, so we're gonna put it on paper. And it might look like a to-do list. It might look like my some worries. It might look like some gratitude or things that I am very happy that I accomplished during the day. So again, I've done this over the years and I found out these are the things that help me to relax and get ready for bed.
Like, give it to God and then let go to rest.
Yes.
Love a
Yeah.
good brain dump.
Mm,
If if someone listening in is feeling maybe a little bit frustrated or confused because she's doing all the things,
mm,
she's going to bed what feels like on time, she's being
mm,
intentional with a routine and trying to prioritize it, but she's still feeling exhausted when the alarm goes off the next morning, what gives? What is that pointing to, another issue, or what's kind of the order of operations to address something like that where you're like, "Dude, I'm doing everything I should be doing, but I'm
mm.
still pooped."
That's such a great question, and that's really my jam, honestly. So when I look at sleep, we're looking at the quality, the quantity, and the timing of sleep, right? So when we talk about quantity, right, it's that 7 to 9 hours. So of course you want to make sure, am I getting enough sleep? So if you feel like, okay, that checkbox, I'm getting 7 hours. If you're getting 7 hours and you're still feeling tired, maybe try 7.5, whatever, if you can, if it's possible. But even beyond that, what I feel is very important is the quality of sleep. So how is your sleep quality? There are many things that can affect the quality of sleep. Are you drinking caffeine or other beverages that could be disrupting your sleep? So caffeine, alcohol are two big ones. Heavy meals before bed, that might disrupt your sleep. So you want to check that out. Are there environmental things like, is the bedroom hot? Is there noise in the background? Do you have a kid that comes visiting you every night and disrupting your sleep, right? Is there light coming from somewhere? And I cannot even tell you enough how much, just the little light that's from like under the doorway or the corridor light, just that sliver of light is enough to trick our brains to think it's morning. Yeah. Or, do I have blackout shades? Is that something I need? Or a sleep mask? Because you really want to make sure your room is as pitch black as possible. So those are some environmental things you want to consider. Stress and anxiety, right? We talked about it. Are you taking so much to bed with you? Are there things you need to do during the day to decrease that stress? Should you be seeing a therapist? Should you be seeing a psychiatrist? You know what I mean? Like those are big ones. Are you active enough? Are you physically active? Are you exercising? Are you taking that walk? Because when you exercise, it actually improves your deep sleep. So that's really helpful. Before we then get to, is there a medical disorder going on? Do you have insomnia? In which case, usually then you want to see like an expert like myself, someone who really specializes in people with insomnia, which is chronic difficulties falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up early in the morning. As a woman, even though we don't hear it that often, but sleep apnea is a big deal. Do you have sleep apnea? Are you snoring at night? Because if you have sleep apnea, your brain is waking you up literally every few moments to breathe. You wouldn't be aware, you just wake up feeling crappy. So that's a big one. And then restless leg syndrome, especially for women, right? Pregnant women, because we have periods, so there's blood loss from that. Sometimes we don't have the best diets. So things like that also. And restless leg syndrome is extremely uncomfortable and also can disrupt our sleep. So those are just the things. You can see there's just such a slew of things that could be affecting our sleep. And that's why it's helpful to then do a deep dive, like where is this problem coming in?
That's all ridiculously fascinating. And I'm already thinking, like, I know my mom's had so much trouble, like,
Mhm.
staying asleep and is always talking to me
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, wow, maybe she has sleep apnea, or maybe there's this or whatever, because she's in that phase
Mm,
of trying everything, like cutting
yeah.
out. I think she stops drinking caffeine at like 12 noon, thinking it's gonna
Oh,
impact the rest of the
yeah,
day from there. So,
yeah.
yeah, that's enlightening. Is there also science behind kind of psyching yourself out? Because I know, like, all right, real talk time. There was like a time in my life where, for some weird reason, I would get
Mm,
nauseous before bedtime.
mm,
And a few times I actually had to vomit. And then I was, I think, so anxious about fearing that it would happen that it was almost like it it was almost
mm,
like the law of attraction where it was then happening,
mm,
and it would my wheels would start turning, and I would be telling myself, "Oh, I probably
mm,
have to do that now." And then it was horrible, and I was like scaring myself into falling asleep because I thought it was just like this awful pattern that was
yeah,
forming. And eventually it worked itself out, and I kind of like for I don't know, forced my brain to get its act together, but it really
mm,
got me thinking like, wow, I wonder if this happens with other things when it comes to falling asleep, where you start having experiencing a symptom or having a habit form or something, and then your brain almost thinks like this is part of the routine and you need to do
mm.
this in order to shut down. Is that a thing, or is that just something my brain made up?
100%. No, it's not your brain. Your brain is not making it up. It is 100% a thing. And usually, when we even talk about like insomnia, which is probably what you were tending to, but it sounds like it got better. It starts with something like that. It starts with an experience, usually something unpleasant. So maybe people if you've experienced maybe trauma or something or some injury or something that either took place in the bedroom or somewhere around that, or stress. Sometimes it's nightmares for some people too with PTSD, where your brain almost starts to dread falling asleep or feels like something needs to take place before I'm able to sleep. And then we're stuck in this habit loop that then makes it hard for us to fall asleep. And when we get into that, that's really very, very common in people with insomnia. And a lot of the work we end up doing is cognitive behavioral therapy. And what that is really is looking at the thoughts, right, that are creating those feelings that are now leading to the difficulties we're having with sleep, and really demystifying it and offering our minds alternative thoughts. It takes some time. It takes a lot of self-reflection, but that tends to be really effective. Of course, most people just want a pill, like let's get rid of it fast. But with supplements or pills, so some supplements are okay, but some actually create dependence where then you start needing more and more and more and things like that. So usually what I recommend is CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy, because it's behavioral changes and cognitive changes that will last much longer than any pill will.
Yeah. All makes sense. Connect this for us with kids, because I don't know how old your kids are, but I have a 4.5-year-old, and then I'm due with my second in a few months. So I feel
Um,
like there's going to be a lot of sleep schedules messed up. How does this all then relate to kids and how they sleep, and how you should kind of intentionally form routines for them? Because I know we've seen that and struggled with it so much with our
mm,
4-year-old, in terms of trying to figure out, okay, like what's the best routine for her, and like at what's the sweet spot of
mm,
how much time and what the routine looks like to really help her fall asleep the fastest and stay asleep and stay in her bed. And it's like truly the world's biggest puzzle.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think the key with kids is consistency. Kids, as much as they try to fight back, they do want us to, they want to know what to anticipate. So when we're really consistent in our responses, in our expectations of them, it does get better. When it comes to routines, I think sometimes what happens is sometimes the routines are so long and convoluted, everybody gets exhausted. And then our kids, when they are tired, they become overtired. They are not, when they're sleepy, they become they become really agitated. And so they start bouncing off the walls, they start pushing back and things like that. I recommend, especially for kids, you want to keep the routine short and sweet, 20 to 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be, even if you need to push bed, if you feel like it's taking an hour to do a bedtime routine, I would rather you give them extra time downstairs to play around and then push that bedtime routine a little bit later. And then making sure, again, it's calming, they anticipate it. Depending on the age of your child, sometimes a picture chart is phenomenal where you literally just draw bathroom, brush teeth, read a book, get into bed. And you celebrate positive behavior like it's going out of style, and you ignore negative behavior because it has to go out of style, right? So I think those are the keys. It's really that consistency. And when there's about to be any behavior change, our kids will push back. They usually call that sort of like the extinction burst, where it's like, they're like, wait, I'm going to try harder. I'm going to push her limits a little bit more. Maybe she'll crack, right? And that's when we really want to stick to our guns in that sense, be consistent, applaud them if they follow along, just ignore the negative behavior, and it tends to be what works the best.
Oh, so good. How do you feel about naps for both adults and kids?
Oh, that's my self-care. So I think naps are good, but I think you have to step back and say, why? Why do I need a nap? For me, like Sunday after church nap, that's the rule, right?
That's
Nobody
bliss.
moves anywhere near. That is bliss, right? But if you feel like you need the nap versus you want the nap, then just check in. Because if you need the nap, that means you're probably sleep deprived. And then you have to go back and say, why am I sleep deprived? And I would rather you get the bulk of your sleep at night. And then if you want to take a little nap as an extra bonus, that's good. But if you're going to also take a nap, I would recommend not taking a nap if you're someone who has difficulty sleeping at night. If you struggle with insomnia, then it's almost like you're stealing out of your night's sleep if you take a nap during the day. But if you have relatively okay sleep and maybe you're just a little sleep deprived, then by all means you could take a nap during the day. The only thing I would say with the nap during the day is you want to keep it short. You don't want to take a super long nap, because I'm sure you've experienced that, like ridiculously long nap where you feel even worse than before the nap. We call it sleep inertia. So I usually recommend, if you're going to take a nap, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, keep it really short. And then you don't want to nap too late in the day. You want to nap like earlier, like early afternoon. This way you have enough time to build enough sleep pressure so that you can fall asleep at night. But yeah, for kids, they need naps usually till they're about 3 to 5 years old. So of course, multiple naps when they're infants. By the time they're about one, they're taking maybe 1 or 2 naps. By the time they're 2 years, 3 years, they should just be taking about one nap a day. And then usually, if you see them start to fight it when they're about 4 years or 5 years old, that probably means that they're ready to ditch the nap.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, napping sounds like it's thriving for you, but I still want to get things wrapped up by asking you this question. Since we ask everyone on the show, what does thrive mean to you, and how do you strive to thrive in your everyday life?
So thriving for me is really knowing that I'm centered in my purpose. At times it's not always easy, right? There are things that I am looking to achieve that may be going slower than I would like, but really being able to stay centered and trust in the process for me, from a mindset standpoint, is my first, you know, foundation when it comes to thriving. Um, Thriving is also when I get to take that nap on a Sunday afternoon after church. Knowing that I choose to do it and I get to do it, and knowing that I'm prioritizing myself so I can be a better version of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And God rested on the seventh day, so I think it's approved. I
Yeah,
think we're good to
absolutely.
go. I love that. Tell everybody, Dr. Funke, where people can find you online to connect with you more, to learn all about your coaching packages, and to work with you if they are in need of some sleep help.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Erica. So I am on Instagram at RestfulSleepMD. So I do put out quite a fair amount of content there. My website is restfulsleepmd.com. So that's where you could definitely connect with me and schedule a call so we could talk about what your needs are and, if there's ways I could support you. I also have on my website, if you subscribe to my newsletter, I have a create restful sleep habits checklist. So you know how we talked about like you've done all the things. So here are some things I know that's evidence-based to at least get you started on your restful sleep journey. And you could just grab that off from my website.
Wait, before you go, make sure you're subscribed to never miss an episode of Thrive. Drop 5 stars on your way out if you like what you just listened to, and come join the party on Instagram at thrive.podcast to stay inspired and thriving all week long. Thanks for tuning in. It's your time to thrive.